This video is sponsored by Meeson. Hey everybody, today we are making some vegan smash burgers like Shake Shack, and we'll also be making some of their amazing cheese sauce, and I gotta say, this cheese sauce was some of the best I've ever made, so stick around for that. But first, let's get to our smash burgers. And it's worth noting that everything I'm making today is based off the recipes in this book, but obviously we'll be making everything vegan and also adding a bit more to them because we can. And so let's do the Shack sauce first, since it gets better the longer it chills in the fridge. We'll start with 1 cup of vegan mayo, 2 tablespoons of Dijon mustard, 2 teaspoons of ketchup, half a teaspoon of pickle brine, and then a few dashes of cayenne. And now we'll mix that up, and if you're like me, you're probably thinking, hey bud, that's like 90% mayo. It's basically just mayo with a few tiny cameos from other things that make a burger sauce good. But I just kept mixing and told myself I'd trust the Shake Shack people, so I gave it a taste and I felt betrayed. So I added about a tablespoon more of ketchup, a few more shakes of cayenne, another teaspoon of pickle brine, and I gave that a taste and decided it was close but no cigar. So I added 1 teaspoon of what's this here sauce, a few shakes of onion and garlic powder, and then gave that a mix and a taste, and now that is a good sauce. So we're going to throw that in the fridge so it has time to marinate in itself. And now let's prep our veggies for our burgers and the cheese sauce as well. And this is a good time to talk about today's sponsor, Meeson. And now I don't do a lot of sponsored content. In fact, this is my first time on YouTube, but that's because I don't want to promote things I don't actually use. And I've had this knife for about 5 years now, which is about 5 times longer than any other knife I've owned. I used to just buy whatever $20 knife I could find, and then soon enough it would fall apart on me. But this knife is still as good as the day I got it, and for the modest price, I think that's more than worth it. And I'm definitely not a knife pro, as you can probably tell, but this Meeson knife has definitely made it easier for me on a daily basis. So if you're interested, check out the link in the description and use the code BURGERDUDE for 20% off and get free shipping when you spend $75 or more. So now that we've got our veggies prepped, let's go ahead and do up some smash burgers. And now I had to conduct a bit of research for this, as in the past I found that when I use Impossible or Beyond for smash burgers, they tend to dry out. But this recipe calls for 4 ounces of meat, and I usually only use 2 to get a super flat patty. So I thought maybe that's the trick, is to use more meat to keep it juicier. So I'm going to weigh out 4 ounces of meat like so, and I'm using both Beyond and Impossible to see how they do as smash burgers. Now, for smash burger success, you'll need a few things. One is a good cast iron pan. You can also use carbon steel or a flat top griddle. Either way, we need high heat to get that signature brown crust on that burger. And to smash it, I use this burger iron, but you can also use a flat spatula like this, which I'll use to pry it from the pan. A melting dome to melt the cheese naturally, and then some squirt bottles filled with a high smoke point oil, and some water will come in handy. Alright, now let's get our cast iron nice and hot, and I'll add in my burger ball and give it a smash. And incidentally, smashing these burgers, it's pretty satisfying. But next we'll season with some salt and pepper, and then we're going to cook it for about 2 minutes. And now a hot pan is good, but I think this one was way too hot, as my burger came out pretty blackened. And you might be wondering, well, how black could it be? And the answer is none. None more black. So let's lower the heat, and oh, before I forget, remember to toast your buns. Always toast your buns. And Shake Shack does use Martin's potato rolls, but those are not vegan. So I found some potato buns at my local major chain store that were plant-based. Otherwise, just use some plain old white buns. Now for the burger, add some oil to the pan, spread it around with your spatula or burger press, and now let's get another ball of meat in there and smash it. And now this one I smashed too thin and it came out a little dry. So let's rewind that, and then we're gonna redo it properly. That is much better. That's about the perfect thickness, so we get a good crust without the patty drying out. And go ahead and season with salt and pepper and cook it for about 2 minutes. You can also just check the patty like I am, and if you see that it's got a nice dark brown layer, it's ready to flip. And the burger will probably want to stick, so you'll need to get in under there. And once you've loosened its grip, give it a flip to reveal that beautifully browned burger. And that is why we smash our burgers. And then next, let's add some vegan American cheese, squirt in some water, and then we're going to cover and let that steam to melt the cheese for about a minute. And after that, there we go, a pretty perfect vegan smash burger. So get your bottom bun, slather on some of that Shack sauce, which I don't know if they do that on the bottom bun, but also I don't care. And then next we'll add our cheeseburger, some tomatoes, season those with a bit of salt and pepper, and then next some of this unruly lettuce, which is actually pretty good. more sauce on our top bun, of course, and then now it's time to eat. And this thing was pretty dang great, and that crust on that burger was totally perfect. It just adds another layer of flavor, and I don't know, I think this might be the way I make burgers from now on. It really is a classic cheeseburger that's perfect in its simplicity. Now that was an Impossible patty. Let's see how the Beyond works out. I'm cooking it the exact same way as the Impossible, smashing a 4-ounce ball on a cast iron. And as you can see, it didn't stick to the pan, which means that we probably won't get as good of a sear. And then as I go to flip it, yep, the browning is much less even, and there's also some pink areas left, which was a bummer. And even though I was pretty full, I went ahead and assembled a simple burger for science, and the burger didn't dry out at all, but the crust was also much less flavorful. So honestly, I'd say the Impossible makes a better smash burger, but the Beyond certainly isn't a slouch either. Now for the cheese sauce, this one is a bit different than the ones I've made in the past on this channel, as we'll be using a vegan heavy cream and steeping it in some veggies, and I'm sticking to the original recipe as close as I can. And at first I tried this by using this coconut heavy cream. I was worried it might taste a bit too much like coconut, and well, I was right. This cheese sauce was pretty good, but it was a little sweet and also kind of thin, as you can see here. I added some tapioca starch and that helped out, but the flavor just wasn't where I thought it could be. So instead of coconut heavy cream, I tried out some cashews. I'm going to soak 1 cup of cashews in boiling water for 10 minutes and then strain them and blend them up with about 2 cups of unsweetened plant milk, and that will be our cashew heavy cream. It might look a little thin, but it will thicken up a lot once we heat it. So next, let's add some oil to a pan, and we're going to saute half of an onion, a sliced jalapeno, 1 teaspoon of black peppercorns, and half a teaspoon of salt, and cook those for about 5 minutes. But I also went rogue and added some garlic in there for the last minute, but you can skip that if you don't like flavor. After that, we'll add in 1 tablespoon of both white wine for drinking and white wine vinegar that you should not drink. Cook that until most of the liquid has boiled off, and then we'll add in our cashew cream. Stir it around, and then next we're going to kill the heat, cover, and let that steep for 30 minutes. And then we're going to strain it, and this is where you'll notice it got a lot thicker. So use some gumption, and once you've got it strained, let's add it back to a pan along with 8 ounces of vegan cheddar shreds. And the recipe calls for 2 cups of American cheese shreds, but all I can find is American slices. So I tried to grate them, and that didn't really work, so I'll use my Mecha knife to cut the cheese up. There we go. Let's add that, and now all we need to do is stir this over medium heat until it's melted, and this is optional, but I also added in 1 teaspoon of sodium citrate, which is an amazing emulsifier. Now, if the cheese sauce is looking a little thick, go ahead and add in some more plant milk to thin it out, and then just keep on whisking until it's looking something like that. I mean, honestly, I kind of just want to fill a bathtub up with this stuff and climb on in and die from happiness. But instead, I'll get some crinkle cut fries that I've air fried, because after all that, I'm not making fries from scratch. And we'll go ahead and give that a pretty hearty drizzle. And now it's time to dig in. And my friends, you all really got to make this sauce ASAP. And I regret that because I made this cheese sauce after my burger, I didn't have it alongside my burger. So again, learn from another one of my mistakes and make sure to pair this with a burger. And if you're going, hey dude, you did a vegan Shake Shack, but you didn't make a shake, well, fret not. I have a recipe for a shamrock shake, so go ahead and click right there and you can have the full burger, fries, and shake experience. Until then, I'll see you next time.